Imagine, if you can, committing a heinous crime that's brought before the International Court of Law, the International Criminal Court. You never show up for your court dates. The court hears the case, and you're judged and sentenced. You're found guilty, and there's a warrant out for your arrest. And when the sheriff's department tries to apprehend you, you say that you don't acknowledge that court as a legitimate court of law. And then you just go about your life as you please. Could you imagine doing that? Of course, it's probably hard for most of us to imagine even committing a heinous crime. But could you imagine having such a false sense of authority that you just simply say, no, you can't arrest me. I don't acknowledge you. I can't imagine living in that world. But that's the world that Donald J. Trump lives in every day. Every day that we allow him to gaslight us or subvert the law, escape accountability and justice for his victim. I'm referring to the International Criminal Court case against Pope Leo, and I thought it would be interesting to deep dive into that today. So, prepare yourselves. This isn't going to be pretty, but I think it's incredibly essential that we know exactly who our president is. So let's head over to Murder by Decree. And I'm going to read to you quickly what the charges are, and then we'll deep dive into it. Top officials are charged with crimes against humanity. Pope Leo, Donald Trump, NATO head Mark Rutte, and 10 others are summoned to appear before an international court Monday, September 8th, 2025, GMT. Brussels. Church, government, and corporate leaders were publicly charged today with participating in the trafficking and murder of children and issued subpoenas to answer charges in court next Monday, September 15th. A copy of the summons follows. Order to appear. This public summons is issued to the following co-conspirators in crimes against humanity: Robert Prevost, Mark Rutte, Charles Windsor, Andrew Windsor, Justin Welby, Donald Trump, Keith Schiller, Albert Bourla, Fred Hiltz, Pietro Parolin, Timothy Dolan, Reinhard Marx, Gary Patterson. You are hereby ordered to appear before this court on Monday, September 15th, 2025, to answer criminal charges that you have actually participated in the trafficking and cult ritual rape, torture, and murder of children and adults, and that you continue to do so. Be advised that considering your present association with proven criminal organizations, any failure by you to appear before the court or to reply to this summons will be interpreted as a plea of pro confesso guilt and will compel the issuing of arrest and reclamation warrants against you and your accomplices. This order is issued under international law and has its full force and effect. This order will be enforced by sworn sheriffs of the court, issued on Monday, September 8th, 2025, by the Criminal Trial Division of the International Common Law Court of Justice. Signed, ratified, and stamped in the original. You have the magistrate and the secretary of court. And the docket number as well. Judgment and sentence, October 6, 2025. 1 month ago, on September 8, 2025, the Criminal Trial Division of the International Common Law Court of Justice convened its proceedings against the defendants by issuing them summonses to appear to answer the charges made against them by the court's prosecutor. None of the summoned defendants contested or denied those charges. Accordingly, the court prosecutor commenced his case against them. The prosecution began by describing the lawful basis of the proceedings as a tribunal of conscience under international law, the absence of any judicial body willing to try the case, the command responsibility of the defendants for their heinous crimes, and their particular culpability because of their association with convicted criminal organizations and their tacit admission of pro confesso guilt by their refusal to plead. Over the next 3 weeks, the prosecution presented to the court detailed evidence proving the guilt of the defendants, including with live eyewitness testimonies, legal affidavits, coroner's reports, forensic artifacts, extensive documentation, video and photographic evidence, and church, government, and corporate records and correspondence. During the first week of the trial proceedings, the court received back-channel communications from 2 of the defendants requesting amnesty from prosecution in exchange for their testimonies. The defendants in question were Keith Schiller, former bodyguard of Donald Trump, and Gary Patterson, former moderator of the United Church of Canada. Keith Schiller. I guess he had to move out of the country, given those sanctions. According to the prosecution, both Schiller and Patterson, like all the defendants, are confirmed participants in Ninth Circle cult ceremonies and their related snuff films, and thereby directly implicated in the ritual rape, murder, and cannibalizing of children. The court therefore denied Schiller's and Patterson's request for amnesty and ordered them to enter a plea. Like the other defendants, neither Schiller nor Patterson did so, affirming their pro confesso guilt under law. However, both Schiller and Patterson were enjoined to divulge their knowledge of the charges against them and other defendants, which they did without recourse to legal counsel. During the trial's 3rd week, the court received remarkable new evidence from sources within the Church of Rome in America. This evidence revealed the involvement of Donald Trump, Pope Robert Prevost, and Cardinal Timothy Dolan and his church associates in the murder of Charlie Kirk, Mormon church leader Russell Nelson, Virginia Giuffre, Deutsche Bank officers Valentin Brocksmith and Thomas Bowers, and Reverend Joe Moreno of Buffalo, New York. This evidence sheds more light on the extent of the Ninth Circle cult's operations in America and their close association with the Mormon and Vatican assassination agencies, known respectively as the Danites and Santa Alianza. Note, the other Catholic clergy in America who are complicit in the murder of Reverend Joe Moreno include Bishops Richard Malone and Edward Gross, Vicar David Lipuma, Deacon Paul Weissenberger, priests Joseph Gatto and Arthur Smith, and church enforcer Francis Mazur. As secondary co-conspirators, they will be prosecuted in an upcoming case of the court. During this same week, the prosecution received confirmation of an extensive child trafficking and killing network spanning the Canadian-American border across Lake Erie. A child trafficking pipeline that services Ninth Circle covens in southern Canada runs from Cleveland and Buffalo to Brantford, London, Hamilton, and Toronto, Ontario. 6 of the defendants are directly implicated in this network: King Charles Windsor, Andrew Windsor, Catholic Cardinal Timothy Dolan, Anglican Archbishops Justin Welby and Fred Hiltz, and former United Church moderator Gary Patterson. Evidence concerning the guilt of the defendants NATO chief Mark Rutte, Vatican Cardinals Pietro Parolin and Reinhold Marx, and Pfizer CEO Albert Bourla was provided to the prosecutor by Interpol, Ninth Circle, and corporate sources in New York and Europe. At the behest of the Chinese government, with whom he is intimately connected, Parolin attempted to manipulate Mark Rutte as head of NATO using photographic evidence from Ninth Circle rituals in which Rutte participated. A similar blackmailing was employed successfully against another Ninth Circle participant, Albert Bourla, by Parolin and Marx in their capacity as the coven's covenanters in order to facilitate the takeover of Pfizer by the Vatican Bank. Regardless of Russia's response to this latest Vatican manipulation, the effect has been to destabilize NATO on the eve of a possible confrontation with Russia, which is likely China's plan, but it has also made new schisms within the Ninth Circle and encouraged more insiders to come forward. In terms of these bigger geopolitical forces, it is clear from the evidence that the recent murder of Charlie Kirk in Utah and the Mormon leader Russell Nelson by Santa Alianza and Danite agents is connected to the effort by the Vatican Bank, IOR, to channel the vast financial assets of the Mormon Church towards China and the BRIC Alliance, with whom the IOR is partnered. And what did I say? Who had the most to gain by Charlie Kirk's assassination? I said the Roman Catholic Church, J.D. Vance. I said the FBI must be in on it. Trump must be in on it. Charlie Kirk's wife. The Mormons. This is huge. And it's frustrating because I was really hoping I was wrong. I was really, really hoping I was wrong. I just couldn't see how I could possibly be wrong because it was just so evident. And I think a lot of people knew. I think a lot of people deep down inside, they knew that Trump, the FBI, was involved. They knew that the Mormons or the Catholics were involved. And I think a lot of people knew that Candace Owens' complete focus on Israel was suspicious as well. As in, it was controlled opposition, being that she's Catholic, and that her husband was running Turning Point UK. I believe they were involved in the conspiracy to murder Charlie Kirk. As part of a Mormon old guard, Nelson resisted this move and tried to prevent the amalgamation of IOR assets with those of his church. Charlie Kirk was privy to this conflict and sympathetic to Nelson's position, but as one who was also aware of Donald Trump's role in the murder of Jeffrey Broke-Smith and the others forenamed, Kirk was a double liability for both Trump and the Vatican, particularly for Pope Leo, Robert Prevost, who along with Pietro Parolin has worked for years to strengthen ties between the IOR and Chinese investments globally. And the IOR, they were involved with the assassination of Jessica Savage back in the 80s when she discovered what they were doing with their Illuminati, Freemason ties, etc., and the Vatican, of course. She was investigating a Vatican banker. And a lot of other things going on that led to her murder. Eyewitness accounts, coroner's reports, videos, and 983 pages of documents. This material includes hitherto undisclosed evidence from Vatican Library archives that recount all the Ninth Circle rituals and their participants held in Rome since December 1869. Do you understand that? Overwhelming evidence. This evidence chronicles other cults associated with the Ninth Circle in Europe, North America, Australia, and Asia. A Catholic necrophilia cult was discovered by Georgina Cameron, one of our ITCCS field operatives in Wollongong, Australia, during the summer of 2022. This discovery cost Ms. Cameron her life, but not before she documented how Bishop Brian Mascord of Lumen Christi Catholic Church presides over this cult's ritual rape and evisceration of children. He is assisted in these crimes by Professor Ian Benson of Notre Dame University in Sydney and Catholic participants from Melbourne, Shanghai, Seattle, and Vancouver, Canada. This evidence will be included in future sessions of the court. In the course of this trial, the court has established the strong ties between the Ninth Circle and the military corporate agencies responsible for developing microchip bioweaponry. 3 separate eyewitnesses who survived the Circle's rituals described the routine presence of medical researchers at the ceremonies, the warehousing of children for drug testing, microchip implantation, and blood extraction, and military-run pain threshold experiments performed on children as part of their ritual torture and sacrifice. Pfizer Pharmaceuticals and its CEO, Albert Bourla, are especially implicated in these atrocities, as are other drug companies tied to Vatican money, like GlaxoSmithKline, Novartis, Bayer, Moderna, and Eli Lilly. The mind control methods and technologies now being deployed against the general population were developed, tested, and refined within the Ninth Circle networks at the cost of untold numbers of children's lives. There are multiple links that you can go to here. The personal guilt of the defendants for their involvement in Ninth Circle atrocities has been established by the prosecution without being contested or denied by the defendants or by any contrary evidence or information. The details of the defendants' guilt are elaborated in the judgment and sentence against them, based on the exhaustive evidence held in the files and archives of the court. This evidence held in trust by the court and will be made public in increments so as not to jeopardize future litigation and the identity of witnesses. Applications to review this evidence can be made to and will be considered by the court. Judgment and sentence of the court. After a thorough examination of the evidence, the magistrates of the court have come to a unanimous verdict. The court finds all 13 of the primary defendants guilty as charged of complicity in the crimes against humanity, murder, and participating in the trafficking and ritual rape, torture, and murder of children. By majority opinion, the court sentences all the defendants in absentia to imprisonment for life without the possibility of parole and the forfeiture of their assets and authority. In a dissenting opinion, 2 of the court magistrates state that the death penalty is required in the sentencing of those defendants who bear command responsibility for Ninth Circle atrocities and who have personally participated in their rituals. Those 5 defendants are Robert Prevost, Justin Welby, Pietro Parolin, Timothy Dolan, Reinhard Marx. As part of this sentence and under law, the following government officials are hereby stripped of their authority in public office, and the citizens, police, and public officials of their countries are absolved of all allegiance towards them and must aid in their arrest and imprisonment. Donald Trump, Charles Windsor, Mark Rutte. Enforcement order. The court hereby orders the immediate arrest and incarceration of all the defendants according to the terms of this verdict and sentence. To this effect, the court hereby issues the following universal arrest and reclamation warrant. It empowers court sheriffs and any person, group, or persons or police officer to detain and incarcerate any and all of the sentenced defendants and to seize their assets and those associated with their respective bodies, corporate as convicted criminal organizations. Under international law, the criminal conviction of the 4 named heads of state and church renders those powers null and void, and thereby makes the Church of Rome, Vatican, the United States of America, and the Crown of England, Great Britain, rogue regimes. Accordingly, the nations of the world and their police and military are required to assist in the enforcement of this court order, bring to justice these convicted persons, and aid in the disestablishment of their criminal regimes. This lawful judgment and sentence of the International Common Law Court of Justice has the authority of international law and has universal jurisdiction and application. The court's evidence and judgment stand as uncontested fact and precedent under the law. Registered in the court on Monday, October 6, 2025, by its secretary, George Dufort. And here is the list one more time. Universal arrest and reclamation warrant. Issued Monday, October 6, 2025. The bearer of this warrant is authorized and empowered to arrest and incarcerate the four named persons who have been lawfully tried and convicted of crimes against humanity, murder, and ritually trafficking, torturing, and killing children. This warrant has the full force and effect of the law. It is a crime to interfere with the enforcement of this court order, issued by the magistrates of the court regarding case docket 08092025-A-001. And there you have it. I'm going to go a little bit further into the court case and what's been going on in Canada specifically. Please share. I know it's a lot to take in, but it's just, it's being ignored. America has a rogue regime. President Donald Trump is a rogue president by international standards. And his involvement in the Charlie Kirk murder is going to be brought to light soon as well. And as soon as it does, I'll be sure to bring it to you. So let's get into this case a little bit further and what's been going on in Canada with the Vatican.